There's some simple foods that you can start implementing today to help stop nighttime peeing. So if you're getting up like 2, 3, 15 times a night to pee, it's not only disrupting your sleep, it can really disrupt your life. And it can also be a sign of other more significant issues that are going on in the body. So if you're getting up every night, you're probably thinking night after night, like, I just peed. I didn't drink anything else. Where is this coming from? Am I just like made of pee? This doesn't make any sense. So before we get into some of these foods that can really help, like salmon and mackerel and maybe even like hard-boiled eggs, I want you to understand what your real goal is with these foods. Because inevitably, I'm going to have somebody in the comments say, "Oh, whippersnapper, I done ate mackerel last night and I still peed more time than a swaddled back wood knocker." And so first of all, a swaddled what? But more importantly, don't view these foods like they're going to adjust the way your bladder is functioning. They're not going to change your kidney function. We want to clear up a lot of the confusion that can go along with this issue, because the fact is this nighttime peeing problem really can be caused by like bladder problems like a UTI and other issues like that. So people kind of view it like, oh, it's always my bladder. People are told I have an overactive bladder. Well, it's not like a personality thing with your bladder. Why is your bladder overactive? If we can understand that, then we can adjust our diet or lifestyle situations to create improvement with that. So before we talk about some studies that can help shed some light on this, just keep in mind that I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm basically just a professional stand-up comic turned nutrition author, because when I lost my voice for 8 years and couldn't talk at all, 23 different doctors couldn't help me figure that out. I had to dig for my own answers. And so now I teach health professionals in more than 40 countries how to help their clients fix the actual underlying causes of health issues instead of just covering up their symptoms. So in the medical world, this nighttime peeing situation is known as nocturia. So let's look at this study on nocturia associations with circadian rhythm disorders. And when somebody hears circadian rhythm, they usually just think, oh, that's about I'm sleeping fine, so that's not a problem for me. But it was Dr. Emmanuel Rivisi who helped us understand that this circadian rhythm at the cellular level of the body is about a lot more than just am I sleeping or not. There's a lot of functions that need to happen during the day in the body when the body's in a state called the catabolic state. And then at night, when it moves into this anabolic state, there's a lot of functions that have to happen in that state. So we're supposed to move back and forth between those states from day to night. But a lot of people will get stuck in one of these states most of the time, and it can create a lot of health issues. So when we're looking at this why am I peeing all night situation, we need to understand that if a person is stuck in this anabolic state and dealing with what we call an anabolic imbalance, then the body will send more of the water to the kidneys and less to the bowels. So this nighttime peeing situation is often just about water traffic. It's about a problem that is sending too much water to one area and not enough to another. So a lot of times these people will end up constipated just because now the bowels are getting more dry and hard and difficult to move. It's not always the case, but it's very common to see this. And this overly anabolic state has been the problem for more than 95% of the hundreds of people that I've helped improve this situation. So we want to look at these foods that can help improve that specific situation. Now, before we talk about these foods, we also want to understand that high insulin levels can also be problematic. So if you're eating a lot of carbs and processed junk carbs and sugars, you really want to reduce that to allow insulin to come down, because there's a lot of studies that show that high insulin levels can cause somebody to pee out a whole lot more. So the first food that can be really helpful in fixing this situation is salmon and mackerel. So these are fish that are high in omega-3s, and omega-3s are very pro-catabolic. So they help push the body more into that catabolic state. So if a person is having an overly anabolic situation, foods that are high in omega-3s can help push them more into that catabolic state. Now don't view this like I'm going to eat salmon on Tuesday and then Tuesday night I'm not going to have to get up to pee. It's not going to be an immediate reaction. You're looking at improving an imbalance, which is going to take time. You might have to put more effort than just eating a slab of salmon. You're going to have to help move the body into a more catabolic state. And that means we want to look at the timing of these foods. If we're going to be eating foods that push the body more into a catabolic state, we might not want to do that at night when the body should be in a more anabolic state. But if we can eat these foods for breakfast or at lunch when the body should be in a more catabolic state, now we're learning to work with our body instead of against it. Food number 2 is hard cooked eggs, or the yolk is cooked hard specifically. So that can be scrambled eggs, that cooks the yolk hard, or maybe hard boiled eggs. Those are a pro-catabolic food. Will have an effect that pushes the person more in that catabolic state for most people. Now, what's really interesting about eggs is if the yolk is left runny and it's not cooked, that seems to have a pro-anabolic effect on people. So it's just how these proteins and fats are cooked can change the structure of them and can change the effect they can have on the body. But having hard-cooked eggs in the morning or during lunchtime can be really beneficial. Food number 3 is fresh ground flax seeds. So some people have a hard time digesting flax seeds, and there's a lot of debate about whether flax seeds go rancid after they've been ground and stored. So I just like to be safe and just ground the flax seeds fresh. Flaxseed oil goes rancid pretty quick, so I don't use this a whole lot, but fresh ground flax seeds can be beneficial. And food number 4 is non-starchy vegetables. And a lot of the benefit here just could be that it helps somebody reduce the amount of high starchy vegetables or high carbohydrate junk foods that a person might have. A lot of those high carbohydrate foods are going to be pro-anabolic for some people. Now keep in mind that a lot of people are going to be able to eat these foods just fine. We should be able to eat these foods just fine. It's just if a person is dealing with an imbalance that they're going to be problematic. And food number 5 is chia seeds. These also seem to have a pro-catabolic effect on a lot of people. So before we talk about some foods that you really want to avoid, you need to understand that a lot of these foods are not going to have an effect for you if your problem is just that your insulin is real high and causing you to pee out too much stuff. You really want to know, am I leaning too far on this anabolic side or not? I'll point you to a video where I talk about some simple tests that you can run as well. But if you want to know more foods that are more pro-anabolic and more pro-catabolic, my book Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, chapters 15 lists a lot more. And in that book, you can also learn how to run these simple self-tests at home that give you an idea if you're leaning too far on that anabolic side or not. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below where you can get the whole thing totally for free, and then you can just jump to those chapters to understand those things. Now, more important than eating the right foods can sometimes be avoiding the wrong foods. So foods that you really want to avoid in this scenario could be like heavy cream or ice cream. I know, sorry about your luck, but both of those things are very pro-anabolic foods. Runny or soft cooked eggs like we talk about, very pro-anabolic and can magnify that imbalance. And so can vinegar, butter, and those high starch, high carbohydrate, high sugar foods like we talked about. And what's interesting is avoiding a lot of those carbohydrates and sugars. A lot of people say, oh, I brought my insulin down so I don't have to pee as much at night, but those foods are also pro-anabolic, so that may be part of the effect that they're experiencing as well. Other things that can be really helpful to avoid are like canola, soy, or corn oil. These are not really fit for human consumption anyways, but they can really magnify some of these problems, so great to get those out of your diet completely. So we missed a lot of the science here. I didn't dig into that a lot here. I just wanted you to understand these foods that can be really helpful. But for a lot of people, they'll need to also maybe use some supplements. Maybe their imbalance is really significant and foods are not going to be enough to fix the problem alone. So once we release our video on the top 5 supplements to help improve nighttime peeing, we'll put it right up here. But for now, if you want to understand this science a little bit more, you can jump over and check out our video on why do I have to pee so much at night? I can't wait to hear about your results.